Today I'm going to talk a little bit about two things I'm learning from Richard Meyer's book. Some things that are pretty common sense, but one thing that surprised me. And so, starting with the common sense, the multimedia principle from the book, from the research, he's been able to determine a pretty common sense idea, and that's words and pictures together are better than words or pictures alone for the learners. It's going to help them understand a little bit more about what you're trying to present or understand. And the rationale behind that is when they're both presented, learners have the opportunity to construct a verbal and visual mental models and build connections between them. It's all about the brain making the connections and helping our students to make those connections. One of the things that I thought was fascinating is it has to be active learning. The kids have to be actively processing it. So basically when we put words and pictures, if they're meaningful, then it helps the learner to be able to build connections. The more connections, the longer term memory it's going to go in there, and they'll be able to retrieve it back into their working memory again. Fascinating stuff, but the research supports it. When a good picture can go on that slide, can go on that handout, that can help explain what the words are saying, it's always better to support that. However, there were some cautions. Just images for the sake of having a picture on there is not actually going to support the learning and is unnecessary. But if you can find a picture that will support what you're saying with the words, the research supports absolutely always using that. The other principle was the personalization principle. I found this one really fascinating. It says that people learn better from multimedia presentations when the words are in conversational style rather than formal style. For example, maybe in a narrated animation on how the lungs work, personalization would involve using you or your. For example, your heart does this, or your lungs do this, and how it would work. And the theory behind that, and the research that backs it up, talks about when a learner feels that the author's talking to them, they're more likely to see them as a conversational partner and try harder to make sense of what the author's saying. And so, for me, that was kind of surprising. One of the things in middle school that we're trying really hard to do is teach that more academic writing. No you, no I, no personal pronouns. And so one of the things that I'm going to try to be working on is when do we use personal pronouns? When is it appropriate instead of no, never? Sometimes, in certain ways, we can use it. Thinking about vocabulary lessons, how can we turn those vocabulary words, make those more meaningful by making sentences, including some of the personalization principles, doing slides, etc. Talking about the personalization principle. I think one of the things that has inspired me to do in the research is to really work hard to find images that can help my students understand the concepts better. Sometimes that may mean a video. For example, I found a great video with Ted Ed on irony that explained what irony was, using pictures and funny narration and also giving the definition, and it helped enhance the students' learning significantly. Trying to find and craft things that will help our students learn better is always the greatest challenge. Two principles to remember: personalization principles. Try to use a conversational style when teaching an important concepts. It'll help the students understand. And the multimedia principle, trying to find words and pictures, will help our students understand what we're teaching better. I hope these two tips will help. I have them below on my blog as well. Thanks so much for listening, and see you next week.